Hi, greetings and welcome to today's program entitled Stop School Pests and iSchool Pest Manager School IPM Resources. This webinar is produced by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's Center of Expertise for School IPM. The views expressed by our presenters are for educational purposes only and do not represent the official views or positions of the EPA or presenters' organizations. This webinar is part of a series of educational school IPM presentations intended to educate stakeholders such as yourselves and others in school and school-related positions about the importance of school integrated pest management, or IPM, to student health and the steps to accomplish an effective school IPM program. This is Dr. Marcia Anderson with the Center of Expertise for School IPM located in Dallas, Texas. I have the great pleasure of being your moderator during today's program. First, I would like to thank you all for attending today's webinar. Every school has a pest, fly, walk, or hitchhike in at one time or another. Today's webinar will discuss two newly developed school IPM tools, Stop School Pests, which is a compilation of online school IPM training materials for a wide variety of positions in the school community. And iSchool Pest Manager is an accumulation of all of the best school IPM resources in one online location. We will let our presenters discuss these tools further in just a few moments. But before we introduce our great presenters, I would like to take a minute or two to review integrated pest management and why it's important. Protecting the health of children is a top priority for the United States Environmental Protection Agency. Children face increased risks to their health when they're exposed to pests and pesticides. For this reason, the U.S. EPA recommends that all school districts and independent school campuses implement programs that promote both the safe use of pesticides and administer integrated pest management to encourage both long-term and sustainable approaches to successfully managing pests. By developing a coordinated IPM program, school leaders demonstrate their commitment to promoting a healthy environment where students are more productive. Effective pesticide safety and IPM programs are focused on solution-based approaches that solve the reasons why pests are in our schools in the first place. This is a proactive rather than reactive approach that focuses on pest prevention rather than pest control. As a result, it provides schools a sustainable and long-term pest management alternative to traditional pesticide-centric methods. The public is increasingly concerned about environmental health risks of our children that they can be exposed to in schools, as youth spend a significant portion of their lives in and around schools. Reducing children's exposure to environmental hazards improves their health, their attendance, and leads to a greater academic achievement. Healthier school environments enable children to learn and produce more in the classroom, enabling them to experience a more productive and higher quality of life. Full implementation of integrated pest management reduces exposures to pests and pesticides, reduces pesticide use, reduces pesticide complaints, and is very cost-effective. IPM is a sustainable approach to managing pests since it combines biological, cultural, physical, and chemical tools in a way that minimizes economic, health, and environmental risks. IPM provides an opportunity to create a safer and healthier learning environment by helping to manage pests and reducing children's exposure to pesticides. It has also been shown that a good IPM program can improve indoor air quality and reduce asthma triggers, thus improving school attendance also. An effective school IPM program uses common sense strategies to reduce sources of food, water, and shelter for pests in school buildings and on school grounds. Integrated pest management is a smarter and usually less costly option for effective pest management in your school, or any community. At this time, I'm pleased to introduce today's presenters. Dr. Don Gouge is an associate professor and associate specialist, an urban entomologist within the University of Arizona. She has been an entomologist and integrated pest management specialist since 1995. Her extension efforts include IPM implementation programs in public schools and public disabled and elderly housing. Dr. Goose's translational research studies focus on pest ecology and reduced hazard management of public health pests, including venomous arthropods, disease vectors, and bedbugs. Our second presenter is Janet Hurley. Janet is an extension program specialist on school IPM with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. She holds a bachelor's in community health from Texas Women's University and a master's in public affairs from the University of Texas at Dallas. Ms. Hurley joined Texas AgriLife Extension in 2001 to oversee the state's school IPM program. In this role, she directs school IPM coordinator training for Texas public schools, oversees the annual statewide school IPM coordinators conference, works with schools on IPM adoption and implementation, plus works with the National School IPM Work Group to help educate others in IPM. So at this point, I'd like Dr. Goose to introduce us to the Stop School Pests portion of the school IPM resources that she and her team have developed. Dawn, take it away.
Thank you. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. This is Dawn Gooch from the University of Arizona, and I want to talk for a minute about both the iSchool Pest Manager and the Stop School Pests projects are part of a national multi-agency collaboration, and they have a common goal, and that is to reduce risks associated with pests and pest management practices, with our focus, of course, being on school environments primarily. Let me find out how I can do that, and that's just what I just said. Both programs are part of a national multi-agency collaboration, and our goal is to reduce risks associated with pests and pest management practices in schools. All you need to do to achieve that goal is engage your school communities in the implementation, adoption, and rigorous practice of integrated pest management, which most of us just call IPM. So I just want to take us through the why, what, how, who, when, and where that's involved in making that actually happen. First of all, let's address the reason why school IPM is so important. And Marsha's done a great job at setting the foundation there, but I've got a few things to add. Students spend a major part of their daytime in school, at least 25% of their awake time. So the school environment will have a profound effect on their health and well-being immediately and long-term for the rest of their lives. Children are particularly vulnerable to pests and chemical exposures of all kinds because of their habits and the fact that their bodies are still developing. Schools face pest problems that affect their day-to-day operations, and there's always an emerging challenge to face. During 2016, it's all about mosquito management right now. It's a priority for everybody because of the increased arbovirus risks. And I just need to yell out, Zika, and everybody understands what I'm talking about. Districts are under constant pressure to improve scholastic achievement, and enhancements in environmental health lead to improvements in human health, which results in increases in scholastic achievement. And that gets you everybody's attention who has anything to do with a school. Just to focus for a minute on what actually is IPM, and I like to describe it as just a common sense, science-based risk reduction approach to pest management. Because pests need food, water, and shelter to thrive, the IPM approach employs common sense improvements to sanitation and building maintenance standards, all geared towards keeping pests away from the resources they need: food, water, and shelter, just like us. IPM is science-based because it relies on a good understanding of pest biology and ecology in the built environment. Efforts are aimed at long-term prevention of pests and the application of least hazardous, most effective, sustainable, and cost-effective methods to control infestations when they do occur. IPM is a team effort, and you'll hear me say this repeatedly for the next few minutes. It's important that everyone knows they themselves play a role in the process, and that only by working together can IPM programs reach their full potential. Programs begin is usually the same, irrespective of what the initial motivation actually is. Sometimes there's an unfortunate incident. There have been many cases in recent years where school kitchens are forced to close because of cockroach or rodent infestations. Sometimes there's an internal champion who's just passionate about children's environmental health or health issues directly, and there may be legislative mandates in certain states and an increasing number of states over time. Or sometimes it's just the influence of peers from surrounding school districts who have successful programs and communicate, why don't you do it this way? It's so much better, to their surrounding peers. But regardless of the initial cause, the first steps include activities aimed at increasing awareness of pests and the real as opposed to perceived risks, improving the understanding of pests and why they may be present and posing problems in the first place, and engaging the community as a whole, because again, IPM, it's a team sport. IPM really is everyone's job because we all influence the environments that we inhabit. Engaging the community and educating them on relevant issues builds your stakeholder base and supports the improvements of practices over time. Everything anyone learns about school IPM can be applied to the places they live, they work, they play, they heal, and they pray. Initial inspections and investigations help realize perceived versus actual pest risks and management challenges. Monitoring and reporting is an essential component that the whole community should be engaged in, as it facilitates conscious consideration of pests as people go about their daily lives. An IPM plan or policy can facilitate efficient reactions to pest incidents and reduce those high-risk, knee-jerk reactions that people tend to launch themselves into as a result of an incident. At a minimum, districts should have plans for public health pests, not only kept on file somewhere, but put into action every time there's an incident. An IPM coordinating committee can be called many things. Sometimes they're risk management teams, student health committees, sustainability committees. Doesn't matter what they're called, but there should be a district level group that's involved in making IPM decisions. One of the most important steps is to appoint an IPM coordinator or pest management lead who serves as the head decision maker and communication hub regarding pest issues for everybody inside the school and external to the school. Our projects provide resources used to begin and sustain IPM programs, and we're really focusing in on the outreach and education portion of the effort. The Stop School Pests project team chose to focus on one of the earliest steps involved in the IPM implementation effort, that being IPM education, and the group has generated education materials and certificate and certification options so professionals can receive evidence of professional development. In recent years, professional development has become very important. And in recognition of that, we wanted to provide confirmation of knowledge improvements by offering proficiency exams, which result in a certificate or certification depending upon which exams individuals choose to take. We have a small army of IPM advocates involved in this project. There's a national collaboration team of 42 individuals that includes 2 federal agencies, 11 state agencies, 19 academic institutions, 8 school districts, 2 tribes, 9 advocacy agencies, and 4 industry partners. So we have a really good variety of perspectives and significant technical expertise that's all been infused into these materials that are available to you. So the objectives were pretty simple. We intend to increase adoption of IPM in K through 12 schools through the provision of a comprehensive education effort. How did we decide to do this? Recognizing the vast differences in school systems across the country, we wanted to build resources that could be used by anyone, anywhere, and at any time. So we have teaching materials available for in-class education efforts and self-guided online learning modules, so people can really do it anywhere and at any time. In-class teaching resources are downloadable, fully modifiable PowerPoint files, and online modules will be interactive lessons delivered through a web portal. Education, being one of the earliest steps in changing how things are done in a school, helps in several ways. It increases awareness of pests and pest management practices. It improves knowledge and understanding of pests. Why are they posing a problem at this time in this place? It leverages community involvement and investment. It forges connections between subject matter experts and practitioners and school staff, and all of this maximizes the potential for cooperation. The education materials developed were based on learning objectives established for key school community roles. They were weighted based on job responsibilities, and proficiency exams were developed to confirm and recognize knowledge improvements. So who should be involved? Well, materials were developed for specialized roles within the community, and that includes facility managers, maintenance staff, administrative staff, teachers, food service staff, custodial staff, landscape and grounds, school nurses, and IPM technicians and pest management professionals. So any group can utilize any set of materials that they want, but if they want to focus only on the most relevant things for information for them, they certainly can. We have had some interest from parents and guardians, and specific materials for them may be added forth at some point, but this is beyond the scope of the current project. And relevant information from any of the modules can be shared with any interested parents at any time. We conducted a number of national surveys to determine if school staff were, 1, interested to know more about IPM, and the percentages are reflected in that first column of numbers on this slide. And 2, we wanted to know who felt that it was a professional necessity to learn more about IPM. And those percentages are shown in the second column on this slide. And as you can imagine, we got some very interesting results. Facility managers, landscape and grounds, and pest management staff scored the highest on both accounts. And the overachievers there are highlighted in blue. Teachers and food service staff scored the lowest and have historically, for many of us, been the most challenging groups to engage. And their scores are shown in green. Interestingly, school nurses, while clearly expressing the desire to know more about IPM, scored low when it came to the necessity of being educated on the subject. And in talking to school nurses, many expressed the desire, but referenced huge mandatory educational requirements already in existence for their profession, and not enough time to do their job as it is. So our sympathy goes out to the school nurses on that point. Teachers are clearly the least interested, but really have the most to gain from IPM. Most of us have heard the saying, doctors make the worst patients, and perhaps it's because they're intimately aware of illness and the physical vulnerabilities and fears of failing health. So maybe educators are one of the most challenging groups to educate for similar reasons. Educators likely appreciate the extra responsibility knowledge bestows, but while a deeper understanding empowers individuals to know what is right, it's not always what's easy to actually do. But educating on school pests is educating on home pests, and we all live in homes. And we've found that making sure we convey that point really helps to get the entire community involved, including teachers. And teachers do want their students to excel. So when you encourage them to be involved and they understand that improvements in environmental health in their classrooms will help their students to excel, they get very excited about the program. We ran online surveys and also conducted in-person surveys before and after teaching face-to-face sessions. And we discovered that we got very different results in between the two different surveys. So we wanted to know what people wanted to know about. Stakeholders have very strong opinions regarding what they think they need to know, but if they actually attend an educational event, they discover a variety of things that they didn't think were important, but now it becomes apparent that they are important things after all. It's a classic case of you don't know what you don't know. But we made every effort to include information relayed by stakeholders as high priorities. We spent a great deal of time field testing the education materials, and we're really gratified when we get this kind of feedback from experts in the field. And we constantly change the materials based on the stakeholder suggestions. This quote was particularly beautiful. It's a statement made by a very wonderful school nurse in Arizona. And Nurse Mary Griffin said, "I have been a school nurse for 25 years and I cannot believe I learned so much helpful information in just 1 hour." So we felt rather good about that. This is another quote received after an education event for teaching and coaching staff this time. And it's a clear demonstration of how knowledge improvements bring legal compliance benefits. And that's super important. In this case, a softball coach explained to me in confidence afterwards that she'd been spraying helmets with an over-the-counter pesticide because of head lice concerns. The coach was literally saturating the insides of these helmets that were then plonked right on student heads as they set off into the softball field. So not only is this an off-label use of the products that was being used, but in this particular state, it's illegal for anybody without a pesticide applicator's license to apply a pesticide on school grounds. The in-class materials are entirely editable, so this allows an instructor to add specific state or school district specifics if they want to use those materials for teaching. The learning lessons were set up as standalone sessions, but we recommend folks take the IPM introductory course before working on their own role-specific materials. We initially developed a basic introductory course that ran 4 hours in length, and after field testing, we reduced the session down to 1 hour. But we really are that enthusiastic about IPM. The introductory class covers an explanation of IPM in understandable terms, risk reduction and the benefits of IPM in schools, roles and responsibilities of school IPM teams, elements of IPM, including pest monitoring, inspections and reporting, and we give explanations about conducive conditions, vulnerable areas, corrective actions, pest proofing of buildings, and we also list the most common pest groups and signs of infestation that we see in schools. Role-specific materials are constructed as standalone classes, not more than 1 hour in length, but some roles have more than one learning lesson. An example of that is the longest one is 4 hours, and it's chopped up into 1 hour segments. And that was a group of PowerPoints put together for landscape experts. Landscapes and grounds are really complicated environments. What happens outside influences what happens inside schools, so they're terribly important areas of the campus, but there, as you can imagine, there's wide diversity, different habitats across the country, and we wanted to generate something that was applicable for everybody. So landscape and grounds folks have 4 different PowerPoints to look at, and just pick the ones that are most applicable to them. As we built the teaching materials, we discovered needed resources. So we generated support documents to enable easy implementation of recommended school IPM components. And these include, right now at least, a school IPM plan, a model plan that's modifiable, a monitoring plan, an inspection form, pesticide application notices, and a pest management service provider contract. All of which will be housed on the iSchool Pest Manager platform that you'll hear about next. The National Pest Management Association is a non-profit organization with more than 7,000 members across the country. It was established to support the pest management industry as their professionals protect public health, food, and property. In collaboration with NPMA, a Stop School Pest certification will be made available through their online education system. Participants passing the proficiency exam achieve knowledge levels equivalent to professionals passing the Quality Pro for Schools certification. While Quality for Schools is designed for pest management service providers, the Stop School Pest certification can be acquired by school district staff who are not associated with a private company. Most school administrators, ground staff, custodians, maintenance folks, nurses, food service, and teachers preferred a certificate of completion, although they will be asked to answer exam questions that will allow us to monitor changes and improvements in knowledge. But absolutely anybody can actually choose to take the certification through NPMA if they so choose. I feel that the team went to great lengths to build a consensus regarding intellectual content of these teaching materials. The materials were subject to really rigorous review by stakeholders in the field, such as yourselves, and in-class instructors as they were trialed. Some materials were subject to revisions more than 30 times, so it was pretty exhausting in some cases. It's likely that the materials will continue to be updated and added to over time, and anyone can download the files and modify them for their own use. You can add your own logo, change the content, however you see fit. Incentives for school districts to enroll staff include the documentation generated to show professional development for participants, and we'll be working with national and state agencies to have the lessons qualify for continuing education units. And this will include credits for registered sanitarians and pest management staff. And if anybody has any other ideas regarding continuing education units that we should apply for, please let us know. So when and where will all of this great stuff be available? In-class teaching files are available now at the stopschoolpests.org website, and will continue to be updated through the end of this year, and you'll see that they just constantly improve, most likely beyond the end of this year. Online modules will be available in the fall for the self-guided lessons. And all education materials will be accessible through the iSchool Pest Manager site permanently. The National School IPM Working Group has more than 225 members across the nation. and they will be instrumental in the promotion of resources and outreach to school districts and the pest managers and landscape professionals that they work with. The Stop School Pests Advisory Committee members have been and will continue to work with organizations through the EPA Center of Expertise for School IPM and promoting these materials. We take our schools for granted, and not everyone can. The quote here is one of my favorites, and this young lady is in fact my daughter's ultimate superhero. And this is Malala Yousafzai, the youngest ever Nobel Prize laureate who stood up for Pakistani education and was shot by the Taliban, and to this day remains an advocate for education for everyone. So I'll finish by recognizing that school staff and faculty have ever-increasing demands on their time, but ask that everybody invest just a little time in educating themselves on IPM. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn, for your introduction to a diverse set of school IPM training materials. Next, I'd like to invite Ms. Janet Hurley to walk us through the Pest Manager suite of online school IPM resources. Janet, please take it away.
Thank you, Dawn, and thank you, Marcia and EPA for hosting this webinar. We will now switch gears and talk about the iSchool Pest Manager website. As you can see on your screen, the web address, iSchoolPestManager.org, is displayed. Feel free to actually go and search this. This project is a cooperative agreement between the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, and Texas A&M AgriLife Extension with cooperators at Auburn University, Oregon State University, and others. This was a national school IPM work group assembled project to ensure that the best possible information will be made available in a format that works for all school employees. So the iSchool Pest Manager will use the National School IPM Implementation Team, which is most of the change agents in the country, and the EPA Center of Expertise for School IPM to develop a central hub for IPM materials for use by school districts in order to implement and practice verifiable IPM. We aim to make school IPM more understandable, efficient, effective, and easy, and the overall goal of this was to increase the number of schools conducting verifiable IPM and giving you the tools that you need. This project was designed to collect all school IPM resources in the United States, place them in one location, and disseminate that information back in a user-friendly format. In addition, this project aimed to partner with all school IPM educators and academia, government, and non-governmental organizations to ensure the high quality of information presented. The payoff, we have a very comprehensive website, very similar to the National Pesticide Information Center, MPIC. And we also have a mobile web application that you can use, that you can do things from your tablet or your smartphone. So when we first did this collection of data, we had to make a list. Of this list, it was an Excel spreadsheet with over 1,500 resources that were submitted for inclusion in this database. We actually took everything in and then reviewed all this data. What did we find? Well, as you can see on this slide, we found a variety of resources. There was 1,315 resources, including videos, PowerPoints, PDF files, modifiable document files, that means Word documents or Excel files, websites, or interactive games and apps. As you can see, some of these resources, once we broke down types of documents, we found that we had 36 templates or sample forms, things that you can fill out. We have sample IPM policies, sample IPM plans, a variety of templates and samples, pest sighting logs or forms monitoring documents, posters and signs, checklists, samples, letters and notifications, training materials, documents relating to regulations and legislation, and then the most that we have is the fact sheets. So looking at our pest-specific resources, the bulk of our information comes in resources for insect-type pests. Drilling down, you can see that we have a variety of information nationwide to help us find these resources. Volunteers came from all over the country and even from Israel to actually review the documents. So as you can see, we have 58 resources about ants. We actually had people look at all documents to make sure that they had quality information and they were research-based. So what does this website do? The nice feature is after all this work, you, the end user, can now have a one-stop shop place to find a variety of integrated pest management information, be it for solving a pest problem, training for yourself or others at your district, or help with coordinators and pest management professionals educate others about IPM. We have that resource for you. Like Dawn said, you can actually find our Stop School modules on there, but we also have, like I said, a variety of good information for you. A lot of folks have asked us about the mobile app. This is a little bit different format than from looking at the website. It has a cleaner front page look. It does a little bit of different, but it has the same content. So what we're going to do now is look at a few things that you would actually find on the website or the app. For instance, one of the things that we are focusing on is IPM tips. You will notice that everything on the mobile app is 200 words or less, reads at an 8th grade level, and it helps give you easy tips. For the IPM coordinator, this means you can give information to a school nurse, a teacher, a principal, a parent. There is ways for you to share information with others. If you have not been here yet, here is the main website, iSchoolPestManager.org. If you notice on the blue arrow, there is a line below the screen that says switch to mobile site. We're going to pretend we're doing this, and we're switching to the mobile site right now. And when you get there, you'll notice, like I said, a different screen. It's black on the background. It's easy to view on a tablet and or a phone. And you may need something. So for our program today, I'm going to single out a specific situation. So we're going to go look at IPM resources. Once we go through the IPM resources, you can see from this slide, we have Just for You. And on this Just for You, you can literally see where we select Just for You. Then we're going to go to the school nurse, and then we're going to look at data. On that far right column, once you are on the school nurse page, you'll see that there's 84 entries of a variety of resources. This slide is actually demonstrating things from resources like head lice to West Nile virus to state-specific recommendations. So if you were in a state like California, that has some specific rules regarding school IPM, even for disinfectants, that school nurse could pull that out from this document. You can actually get here from the website. Okay, back to the full website, jumping back. So as we go back to our main website, you will see that there's home, what's new, file types, training modules. That header bar has a lot of variety of things. And then the 4 columns, drop-down columns, actually have ways for you to find information. Okay. I noticed that my slides didn't get managed correctly, so I'm going to have to walk you guys through a few things. So on the Show Me Everything page, you will notice that if you go in and do a Show Me Everything, right now we currently have 1,045 entries. On those 1,045 entries, if you go and ask request, Show Me Everything, it pulls up in an alphabetical list. You can actually sort that by type or by publication date. Or you can actually go in and look at it by state. Unfortunately, I can't show that to you guys right now, so I will just move right along. Okay. Looking at training materials, this slide actually shows the training modules button. Want to focus on this for a second. So when Dr. Gouge was talking about her Stop School Pest project, we developed the link on the School Pest Manager website so that you could get to those training modules easy. You can also get to them also on the mobile app. It's called Self-Paced Learning. Either way, you can get there. Once you click on that training module link, it's going to take you to a different website that looks a little bit different. It is because it's on a different platform. I don't want people to get crazy about this, but I want you to understand that we had to do this for you. But once you get here on a self-paced learning, you will see the Stop School Pest information. It's being hosted on the National Effort of Cooperative Extension, and it's called e-Extension. Again, if you're following our school nurse theme, we are actually looking at a school nurse training module. You'll notice that you can either view the PowerPoint or you can download it. So if you want to just view it on your tablet, you could view it on your tablet. If you needed to download it and do a presentation to school nurses at your school district, you could do that. Once you get there, this is what the school nurse module looks like. It will have a front screen. It will have some information about the module. Again, the slides aren't reflecting this, but you can actually advance the slides and you will get content for this. This way, if you needed to train a school nurse and you could not do it and she couldn't get to it till a more convenient time, they could actually view the slides without someone watching over. This slide doesn't show everything, but at the same time, Stop School Pest isn't the only projects that actually have self-directed PowerPoints that you can view. We actually have some from the University of Nebraska. There's some from California. There's a variety of information. With the University of Nebraska, they actually have lessons that are self-narrated, as you can kind of see in this slide. This is actually looking at a bird management presentation, and it takes you through steps of how to control birds as pests. Okay, going back, and again, not being able to show you the right web pages, this one is actually featuring documents that you could sort by state. And for this slide, you are seeing that you can see documents sorted for California. There's actually 57 documents specific for the state of California, everything from their Healthy Schools Act to, again, management plans, documents that you can use. Finally, before we go, I'd like to point out a feature. If you have a new document you would like to add to this website, we ask that you go to our Contact Us tab. Once there, you will notice the Use This form. Select that link, and it will open in this new Google Forms page, which you see the iSchool Pest Manager additions and corrections. You don't have to worry about the number. That's just when we were in the beta testing, we had document numbers. Even if you're suggesting a correction to a document, what I really need you to do is give me the title of the full document. Or if you're updating a document or including a new document, you will need to fill out all the pages, all the steps. So it will ask you for the URL. It will ask you for the title of the resource. It will ask you to give me a type of resource. And it's pretty self-explanatory. If it's specific to a pest, we ask you to identify it. If it's a general topic, you don't have to specify. I invite you from this day forward to please go visit this website, make it, bookmark it, give me your comments. I am open to your feedback. And if there's something that's missing, we ask you to let us know. If there's a gap in documents that you don't see, please let us and EPA know so that we know how to go out and fix that for you. Thank you again for joining us today, and we'll now take some questions.
Well, before we get to the questions, I want to thank both Dawn and Janet for today's webinar presentations describing all of the new school IPM resources that they and their teams have developed. These great new school IPM resources were made possible by 2 EPA cooperative grants, the School IPM Enhancement Program and the Building Sustainable School IPM Inside and Out grant projects as outlined here. For more information on the grants, please visit our EPA School IPM grant website. Here are the 2 final upcoming webinars for this school year. Both are at 2 p.m. Eastern. We hope that you can join us to save the dates. For more information and to sign up, please visit our website. As an attendee of today's webinar, you can download a certificate of attendance. For some of you, these certificates will provide supportive documentation for continuing education credits. You'll be sent a link in a few hours after the webinar to print your own certificate. The School IPM listserv is our way to assist and motivate those in the school community to start, grow, and sustain your IPM programs. By subscribing, you'll receive invitations to upcoming webinars, highlights from and links to IPM-related newsletters, updates on EPA School IPM activities, along with other pertinent announcements. To sign up for our listserv, go to our website, or you can email us at school.ipm@epa.gov. And thank you again to our great presenters, Dr. Don Gouge from the University of Arizona and Mrs. Janet Hurley from Texas A&M AgriLife Extension. In time, a list of all questions and answers will be provided on our website, along with a set of resource links, a PDF of the slides, and a recording of the presentation. In a few moments, you'll see a short series of questions. Please take the time to answer, as your responses help us to serve you better. Now we'll begin to entertain your questions. We'll begin with questions posed during the webinar. Feel free to add any more questions through the question pod right now. Answers to questions not addressed during this 20-minute session will be placed on our website. So without further ado, the first question is for Dawn. Can the training modules be used for continuing education?
Well, we're hoping that they will be. Currently, they're not, but that's not to say that you can't download those materials yourself and submit an application within your own state for continuing education credits with whatever institution you want those credits from. So don't hesitate to grab them and submit those requests for credits within your state. However, over time, once we have everything exactly the way we want it, we will actually be working with people in states in order to get credits for them. And this will take some time, no doubt, but we expect to get as many different groups involved as we can, so that, you know, these things, everybody gets the full value of not only the knowledge that's bestowed, but the credits that should come with undertaking that kind of education. So currently, no, unless you do it yourself, but you can go and grab those materials and submit them within your own state for whatever credits that you're hoping for. If you have a suggestion for credits, please email me and let me know, and we will put it on our list of institutions and types of continuing education units that we will apply for.
Okay, for Janet, can you give us examples of types of template documents?
Yes, we have template documents that are inspection sheets. We have template documents that can help you write an IPM program. We have template documents that can give you monitoring guidelines, everything from pest sighting logs to application use records, and a wide variety of documents.
Thank you, Janet. For Dawn, what pest-related topics are covered with school nurses?
All right. So this is one of my favorite groups and my favorite sets of training materials, in fact. We really, if you think about everything that bites, stings, and poses any kind of medical hazard on a school campus, that we've tried to include all of those. We've also included things like dealing with bed bugs and head lice, which may not be generating significant health impacts directly, but certainly do stress people out quite a lot. And all of those things that are health-related knee-jerk pest infestations are in those modules. We spend a lot of time on head lice and bed bugs and venomous wasps, bees, stinging insects, ants, that kind of thing.
Okay, another one for Dawn. How important is it to have all the work roles listed participate in this type of education?
That's a great question. So, you know, I would say that the more people that you get involved, the easier your life becomes. It's that simple. But if you only have one particular group who are engaged at a particular time, I wouldn't let that dissuade you from using the education materials to train that group of people. Quite often we start with custodians and maintenance people, landscape and grounds, and food service staff, and then we expand education opportunities to involve teachers and the rest of the team. So I would educate anybody who's willing to sit in a room initially, but again, the more people that you can get to understand the value and how they themselves affect the learning environment that they work in, the better.
Yet another one, Dawn. How often do you need to be recertified?
So the certification through the NPMA system, anybody can undertake that, first of all. So it doesn't have to be just the IPM coordinators or the pest management professionals. Anyone can choose to do that, and we're hoping that facility managers in particular are great groups of people who would undertake that certification. Right now, there's no set requirement on recertifying, but I think at some point we would hope that people people continue to stay engaged with the new, it's such an evolving, dynamic area, pest management, so there's always new things happening, new pests happening, in fact. So we would hope that people would stay engaged and continue on with their educational efforts, but there's no mandated period of time that they have to get recertified in.
Okay, yet another one, Dawn. What if I like the materials and want to host a class, but I don't feel confident enough to teach myself?
That's a great question, too, and I feel like that all the time. I think we all do, because we're all constantly having to be experts in new things, and I definitely would encourage you to reach out to the people in your state. Sometimes there are counties that have folks who are willing to help you educate groups. Sometimes there are state extension, county extension staff. Sometimes there are university professors who have appointments involve outreach and education of the general public. A lot of states have an IPM specialist in their state who deals with community IPM issues. Finding that person and engaging them and seeing if they can help you. They may not be able to show up in person, but they may be able to coach you through it. And as I've mentioned, there's more than 200 people across the country who constantly work with stakeholder groups who are working with school communities. So don't hesitate to contact us and ask, who in my area is there anybody I can reach out to? And many of us would probably be willing to go through PowerPoints online with a person and help coach them through before they had to go teach. But it's a ton of fun. You get an awful lot of attention when you start talking about pests.
Okay, another question. What are your thoughts regarding kitchen staff being only 60% regarding these issues?
You know, that was kind of an alarming statistic, but not terribly surprising. Alarming because food safety is of paramount importance, and IPM addresses food safety issues fundamentally. And so, boy, yes, we were super, super interested to speak to anybody involved in food prep and food service staff, very important folks in schools. We weren't terribly surprised necessarily. We only conducted surveys in English, and just speaking from my own personal experience, a lot of our food service staff are either bilingual or primarily speak a different language other than English. So we really did select, unfortunately, for a subgroup rather than everybody, just by virtue of the fact that we were delivering our surveys in English. And I think that for some groups, it was just a little challenging, and perhaps they just didn't feel confident that they would get the most out of spending their time in training that was delivered in English. We are hoping to change that. There are certain components that we have right now in English, well, they're all in English only right now, but there are certain components that we've had significant requests for translation into Spanish specifically, and that is beyond the scope of this current project, but definitely something we would be interested in addressing at a later point, and we have the expertise, so we could do that.
Okay, Janet, one for you here. Once you implement IPM, how do you measure whether IPM program is working or not?
Wow, that's a loaded question. There's a lot of steps, and with IPM, the one thing that we don't talk about a lot is evaluation. And as the district IPM coordinator, your role really is kind of like the circus ringleader. You kind of have to take everything in and see. And honestly, we are working on steps to help you even notice that even more in projects going forward. Because a lot of times you don't know by looking at your work orders or your application use records if your IPM program really is working. But what I will tell you this, I don't know who's asked this question, but where you're located at, if you could work with your local cooperative extension person, there are ways that we can help you to find out if your program's working. Because there are measurable tools that are out there, but sometimes you can't always see the forest for the trees because you work for the school district, or somebody like myself can actually come in and pick the trees and actually look at them. I noticed that one of my partners from Plano ISD was on this call, and we work real close on how I can help him see that forest, because sometimes you guys do get in the nitty-gritty and can't always see that. So please reach out to us afterwards, and we're happy to help you.
Okay, Dawn, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that's great. I would suggest that anybody who poses that question is in a great, they're probably already having positive effects in their school system. I think that even if you take small incremental improvements, you find yourself progressing over time, and that's the way to go sometimes, the only way to go.
Okay, Janet, this one's for you. Living in Arizona, ticks and Rocky Mountain fever are an issue. Are there any modules on ticks for Rocky Mountain spotted fever?
Janet, do you want me? Janet's actually in Texas. I'm in Arizona, but
Sorry.
Janet, you can answer that if you want, but I can answer it. I think we do have some information on ticks. We don't have a specific dedicated module to Rocky Mountain spotted fever and ticks, although it is a terribly important thing. But I'm going to turn it over to Janet because I know that she does have tick information on the iSchool Pest Manager site. And if there is a need for a specific module for school folks on Rocky Mountain spotted fever and brown dog ticks in particular, that definitely could be made available. That's another one of those things. Please drop us a line, because those emails are what we use in order to leverage further funding so that we can undertake the work. Janet, do you want to pass a comment about ticks?
Yes, we actually have information about ticks, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, Lyme disease. All you got to do is, if you go into Show Me Everything, you can type ticks. The other thing that I tried to put into the chat pod, but I'm not sure if it actually got there, is a long time, not that long ago, about 5 years ago, I worked with several entomologists on a tick app. It's called the Tick App, tickapp.tamu.edu. Right now it is a mobile-based website. It is not, you can't find it in the App Store, but we hope to bring it there. But we do. We have management plans on ticks. We have a variety of information. And again, if there's something you're missing, I know on the iSchool Pest Manager website you can contact me. There's something that you can't find, just let me know. As a resource hub, I'll go find it for you, and if we don't have it, I'll find someone to make it for you.
Okay, another question. I believe this one is for Dawn. Are there training materials available in other languages, such as Spanish?
Currently, no, but this is definitely something that we've had a lot of requests for. And just again, please drop us a line so that we have something in writing from a stakeholder who is making that request, and that's what we need to leverage the resources to develop those modules. But there's several that we have actually received requests for, and we'd love to do that.
Okay, how do you get the app for iSchool Manager?
Okay, It's not in the stores. So when you guys go to the regular website, iSchoolPestManager.org, scroll down to the bottom below all the columns, it will say mobile website. Click on that link and it will take you to the mobile website.
Okay, I think that's it for our questions. This will conclude our webinar on Stop School Pests and the Pest Manager School IPM resources. Thanks again for attending, and we hope that you tune in next week for our next School IPM webinar on ants. I'll have to say goodbye now. Goodbye.